I've got COVID and feel awful, so what better time to talk about the top 10 films of 1948? When I say top, I mean my personal favourite films. Cheers, it's water. In at number 10, Rope. Alfred Hitchcock was always experimenting, and here he attempts the first one-shot movie. Of course it's full of cuts, and you spend much of the movie looking for them. This is something I do with most supposedly one-shot movies. I look for the cuts more than I would in a film with cuts aplenty, which often takes me out of the picture. Hitchcock wasn't particularly happy with the results, and neither was James Stewart, who said it was worth trying. Nobody but Hitch would have tried it, but it didn't really work. Funnily enough, it's Stewart that really ties this film together and makes it ultimately work. It all takes place in one room where two arseholes have just murdered someone and then hold a party with guests who know the victim while the body lies in a chest. Stewart plays a character who starts to suspect something is amiss. He plays the suspicion to perfection.
Is it all over?
I'm afraid so, Rupert.
Oh, what a pity. In another moment you might have been strangling each other instead of a chicken.
Mr. Goodell, really?
In at number 9, A Foreign Affair. The marvellous Billy Wilder takes a real-life depressing situation like post-World War II Berlin and makes a romantic comedy. While serving in the army, he thought the city in this state would be a perfect location for a film. Wilder got the hilarious Jean Arthur out of retirement to play a prim and proper member of a congressional committee sent to Berlin to assess the morale of the American troops posted there. She finds a corrupt city filled with soldiers trading chocolate and cigarette rations for nights with women. One German nightclub singer who had close ties to the Nazi party is having an affair with an American soldier. Arthur is determined to find out who it is. She gets the help of Captain John Pringle to find the man, not knowing that he is the man himself.
Captain Pringle! Don't!
Why not? You're not a Nazi. Don't tell me it's subversive to kiss a Republican.
The film is very funny, and of course Marlene Dietrich is hypnotic as the singer.
You buy these goods, and boy, these goods are keen.
In at number 8, The Naked City. The real star of Jules Dassin's noir is New York City itself. This police procedural movie features astonishing location photography in the Big Apple. The story and the performances are fine, but the details about the city are what bring this movie alive. One of the great things about living in a city is that when you look out of your window, you know there are stories going on out there. The film captures that feeling. The voiceover by producer Mark Hellinger is humorous and original.
There is a pulse to a city, and it never stops beating. And some people earn their bread at night. You put on a record, you take it off. You put on another. Does anyone listen to this program except my wife?
Tragically, he died of a heart attack at the age of only 42 after reviewing the final cut of the film at his home. Jules Dassin would go on to make noirs in other great cities, London in Night and the City and Paris in Rififi. And here he captures New York brilliantly. In at number 7, Fort Apache. My personal favourite western of the year. I think most people would go for Red River, and while that film does feature John Wayne's best performance, there's just something about Henry Fonda in this John Ford film that I love. He plays a buttoned-up, by-the-books colonel who takes over command of an isolated cavalry post. He clashes with the men who are slightly unruly, but generally know what they're doing. John Wayne plays Captain York, a more laid-back army man who gets on with the other men, and who understands the Apache better. He was the person who was meant to take over the command before Fonda rode up. A lot of this film is about the conflict between the men and Fonda. What's brilliant is that it isn't just a simple he's wrong and they're right. They're complex, three-dimensional characters. It all builds up to a tragic climax, an ending which makes a good film great. This is the start of Ford's Cavalry trilogy. The other two are good, but this one's brutal ending makes it linger in your mind. It's also one of the first films to have a character use an iPhone.
Mule Creek, Dead Man's Squaw, Schmidt's Wells, Hangman's Flats, Hassayampa.
In at number 6, Germany Year Zero. Well, we're back in the bombed out streets of post-World War II Berlin, but this certainly isn't a comedy. The final part of Rossellini's war trilogy does not take place in Italy, but as I said, in Berlin. Once again, we see the hardship of life through the eyes of a child. We follow a German boy struggling to survive. The footage of the streets is fascinating, and what is fantastic is that a film just a few years after the end of the war isn't showing the Germans as just 2D villains. This is showing the German victims of the Nazis, the people dragged into war, the children, the old people, the innocent people whose lives were also devastated. The children in the film are all suffering, and of course a happy ending is not in store. It's a tough film to watch, but an important one, and a great end to Rossellini's human take on the devastation caused by World War II. In at number 5, Drunken Angel. From post-World War Germany to post-World War Japan. This is the first Kurosawa film that I really like. This could also be because it was his first collaboration with Toshiro Mifune, one of the great director-acting partnerships. Here, Mifune plays a yakuza suffering with tuberculosis. The film is about his relationship with an alcoholic doctor, played by another great Kurosawa regular, Takeshi Shimura. Shimura is trying to save Mifune's out-of-control life. It all leads to an edge-of-your-seat climax, and one of the first great Kurosawa set pieces. In at number 4, The Fallen Idol. Carol Reed was such an inventive filmmaker. This thriller is told from the perspective of an innocent child. Bobby Henry gives one of the best child performances as the son of a diplomat who lives in an embassy in London. His best friend there is the butler Baines, played brilliantly by Ralph Richardson. His worst enemy there is Baines' strict wife Mrs. Baines. Just the way the boy says their names, you can tell how he feels about them.
Will you take me for a walk this afternoon, Baines? MacGregor, killed by Mrs. Baines.
Through the boy's eyes, we see that Baines is having an affair. What begins with a few little lies grows, and the boy has no idea what to do. Soon it's not just affairs that are being covered up, but also possibly murder. Reed was a master at putting in little details that make his 1940s thrillers utterly unique. This was based on a short story by Graham Greene, and they would collaborate again the following year with the masterpiece The Third Man. In at number 3, Bicycle Thieves. One of the best and certainly most well-known Italian neo-realist films. Vittorio De Sica's film isn't exactly realistic. It's full of heightened emotion, a little joy, but mostly devastation and tragedy. This is set in post-World War II Rome. So yet another film on this list about people struggling in former Axis cities after the worldwide conflict. We follow an unemployed man who finally gets a job putting up Rita Hayworth posters around the city. He needs a bicycle for it, and so sells all his linen to get the bike out of a pawn shop. Unfortunately, his bike is stolen on the first day, and the rest of the film is his journey to try and get it back. The police don't really care, because to them it's just a bike, but to him it's life. The desperation is real, the fear is real, and it's all turned up to 11, but that's because it's showing how little things like a bike can literally be life and death for people who are struggling. The scenes when he gets closer to the thief fill you with anger, and the scenes with his son fill you with love and worry for their future. It's a remarkable film that inspired many a filmmaker. In at number 2, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre, my personal favourite John Huston film. There are so many things to love about this dark western. It tells the story of a group of desperate American men struggling to get by in 1920s Mexico. After a little bit of good luck, they buy some equipment and head out into the desert looking for gold. Remarkably, things go from worse to worse once they find the shiny stuff. Humphrey Bogart stars and gives his greatest and nastiest performance. His character is a right bastard, a paranoid, greedy tosser. Leading them into the desert is John Huston's father, Walter, who gives a brilliantly unhinged performance.
Let's what, Sam? Let me tell you something, my two fine bedfellows. You're so dumb there's nothing to compare you with. You're dumber than the dumbest jackass. Look at each other, will you? Do you ever see anything like yourself for being dumb specimens?
A film set in the desert in Mexico could have easily been shot in California, but Houston insisted it be shot on location in Mexico. And what a difference it made. You can feel the heat, and you can tell it ain't the USA, making these desperate men feel like real fish out of water characters. The film is violent and unpredictable. An early fight scene in a bar is a perfect example of this.
Drink. 2 more brandies for the gentleman, and put the bottle on the bar.
Have you got any ideas about getting us liquored up?
Oh, no, I'm just inviting you to have a friendly drink with me.
The whole fight was filmed over 5 days, and is another great example of how it doesn't exactly go as you'd expect it to, with Bogart not being an untouchable hero. The whole film is riveting, and it builds to a remarkably horrid ending, making The Treasure of the Sierra Madre one of the greatest films of the 1940s. And in at number 1, The Red Shoes. The marvellous Powell and Pressburger take Hans Christian Andersen's fairy tale, The Red Shoes, and make a hypnotic, surreal, romantic ballet film. I have no interest in ballet. It's just not my cup of tea. But Powell and Pressburger can take any subject and make it mesmerising. We get a detailed and quite hilarious look at the behind-the-scenes world of ballet. Following Moira Shearer's character, we enter this intoxicating, stressful, magical world of difficult geniuses and romance. She is taken under the wing by Anton Walbrook's impresario, Boris Lermontov. He is controlling and seemingly emotionless, but makes a star of her with a ballet based on the fairy tale about cursed shoes that keep the dancer dancing till they die. Walbrook is outstanding as the difficult, obsessive mastermind. The story of his obsession is captivating, and aside from that story, the ballet itself is spellbinding. Powell and Pressburger don't just show you the performance that the audience would see, but take us on a magical and emotive journey through the eyes of the dancers themselves, lost in the tale. It's one of the great scenes in film history. The dancing is delightful, and adding to the beauty of it all is the gorgeous cinematography. It's a rich and decadent looking film, and the editing is also sensational. The film is equally romantic and horrific. Powell and Pressburger were for my money the greatest film partnership of the 1940s. Their films were varied, unique and significant game changers, and The Red Shoes is my personal favourite film of theirs. Right, so counting down the top 10. In at number 10, Rope. In at number 9, A Foreign Affair. In at number 8, The Naked City. In at number 7, Fort Apache. In at number 6, Germany Year Zero. In at number 5, Drunken Angel. In at number 4, The Fallen Idol. In at number 3, Bicycle Thieves. In at number 2, The Treasure of the Sierra Madre. And in at number 1, The Red Shoes. Well, those are my top 10 films of 1948. There's probably loads I've missed off, so what are your favourite films of 1948?